Yud Beis Hemshech Samech Vav, Yud Beis Tamuz, Hatavshin Samech Ches, page Kuf Ein Dalid.
Right, so we sort of the Indian Shefa, the Indian Shpur, was that the Etzem Dova Atzmei was Nimshach to the Makabel. In other words, it was a Mahus Dova, Mahus Dova Hanishpa is Nimtza Eitzel Makabel. We took the Dugma Vashpur Saseichel. Don't sit like that, you must sit in to the class. And then after some sort of observer, you have to take part in the class. It's, so we saw it in the Ashpur of Rav Allah Talmud that he, even though the Etzem Seichel is itself a Ha'ora compared to Hashpur Atzmiyas, nonetheless, the Guf Etzem Ha'ora is Nimta Eitzel HaTalmid. And we saw that the Hemshech was there, that if in the Ha'ora, which is Nimshech itself, there's only Nimshech from that itself Ha'ora. In other words, that only Ha'ora of the Dova Hanishpa is Nimshach, despite the fact that the Etzem Dova itself is a Ha'ora, well, that's not Nogeya. Nogeya is that the Etzem Dova is Nimshach. So then we saw that leads to, albeit the awakening of another koyach in the nefesh, but it's not the inyan of Amitias Hashpur, because the inyan ha-mashpia, the inyan ha-nishpa, is not nimshah b'kol shleimusay. It's only nimshah ha-ora mimenu, and therefore maximum what it can do is awaken another koyach which is belavochi nimta, but it can't plant its own essence over into the makabu. And so we saw that was in the union of chitzenius hakoichos, or that was the gilui or arousal of midas alidei seichel. And the reason being that not the etzem seichel is nishpa into the midas, it's only a ha'ora bilvad from the ha'ora saseichel atzmi. And that's what we call the bechein. And in that kufa we gave a couple of dugmayos. And since it was, we said that the ikatam is that since that itself is only a ha'ora bilvat, but there are tzimtzum v'yarida from the very essence of the seichel itself. Therefore, what it does is arouse or prompt another koyach, but it doesn't give over the immediate seichel kamoshu into the dova ha-misoyera. And that's what we see. The belavochi, the midas are really nimta in the nefesh, as we pointed out. The effect of seichel in arousing midas is not that seichel produces the midas and makes them yesh mi'ayin, or makes something which was not there mikoidem. No, be'emes the midas are a koyach, or the koichois of the nefesh, which are nimtoim belavochi in the nefesh, mitzad shleimus nefesh. The ha'ora of seichel, if it's nimshach in the form of a bechein and a chitzenius of the ha'ora saseichel, then the seder which was made by the Eivishter in the koichas hanefesh is that can arouse and bring out mi'ahelem ela gilui amida, according to the whatever happens to be the noisa ha'inyan of the bechein. And that's what we saw. We saw that the arousal and this pilus of the midas is only from a dova matzumtzum from the seichel. And we saw harezel racha oras ha-seichel lo mahus ha-seichel. It's about a third of the way down the page. Lochein masha noila v'nimtzum ezeh hu midas v'loi seichel. Achamesha kosu bo zeh o mizeh bo era b'dibo ha-mashro v'chol ho amroim Reish Samech Vav, that's the famous Hemshech. The Rebbe Rashav, somebody can't give him a sefer to look on, because you're not going to get anywhere. Just hearing it's just like a lot of highfalutin talk. You don't see it innovating. That's the only time. What else to push the table away like that? Let's go. Well, it seems to be right. Nothing seems particularly to happen. Yeah.
Can I ask you a question about the Behain? The Behain, is it just a connecting point, or does it physically bring?
No, we pointed out that the Behain, we learned at Bifnim, that the Behain is just a practical kitzur of the Hizboninus itself. In other words, it's like a summing up in a brief summary for the purpose of arousing something practical of what whole Hizboninus said. Therefore, we brought dogmas of that. We said that the etzem HaSeichel is the chiyuv to say that everything is created yesh mi'ayin, and therefore there must be a koyach eloki in the nivra with the whole ariches. And then we said that the bechain was meant that in everything there's chayes eloki. So just like a brief message, and that's the yikah. I mean, we went through that bariches. I don't really see much point going over that again. So therefore, he said that the midas the gadlus, because if we talk, no, wait a minute, where were we? Yeah, b'chol amrim reish samachay. Ulefi yomim yesh she'aseichel atzmei meya b'hamidas. Sometimes it can occur that in the relationship of seichel and midas, there is in effect a genuine ashpah, meaning that the seichel itself goes over kamui shahu. Not it undergoes a whole series of tzimtzumim and becomes a bechain, nor it goes directly how it is in its majesty of seichel into the midas. It's meir bahamiz. Meir is a very important word, because meir means that it brings light. V'heim b'chinas gadlus hamidas she'ein isavus me'abechain. Gadlus hamidas means greatness of midas, or what you might call maturity or fullness of midas. Is then the coming about of the midas is not from the bechain. Ki'im shemahus haseichel shebamoyach meir b'leiv gamkein. That the etzemahus of the seichel, how it is musag in the moyach, well, that lights or illuminates into the heart, yaz amidas b'emes ein midas. Then they lose their whole identity as being emotional trays in a form of yesh or metzias, like an emotional tray is. Ki'im heim k'moi seichel mamish. They become elevated and included or nichlal into the inyan of the midas, into the inyan of the seichel, and so they become almost like seichel, even though they're really midas. The midas, the gadlus, she'hein pnimius hamidas, harehein kemohus moichin mami. V'hainu lefi shenimshach u'meir mahus ha'oras ha'seichel b'leiv. Aval, what we were talking about was chitonius ha'seichel. We were talking about only ha'ora b'derech b'chein, ha'inu from yerida v'tzimtzum, which leads only to a chitonius form of maskona. Well, that shines into that also as meir into the midas, but seichel v'chitonius hamidas mashe meir min ha'seichel b'leiv hu ha'ora levad v'lochein mashe nimtza mizeh hu midas v'loi moichem. Sure. So what is then the difference if both of them are ashpoas seichel to the midas, then why should there be a power in one koyach of the seichel if we're going to say that the seichel and the midas are two different worlds altogether, which we pointed out in the last year? So how is it that normally, in inverted commas, we say that the midas, that the seichel gives rise to midas in the form of a yerida, of a tzimtzum, leading to a bechain, and in the bechain is meya into the midas, and comes out midas b'derech, what we might call yeshes ha'odom, that he feels in himself an arousal. I mean, when we say yeshes ha'odom, we mean positively, because sof kol sof he's using that yeshes in a good way towards Elikus. Or he feels himself Matthias, and he feels close, and he, as it were, loves Elikus, or he feels bottle or some way awed by Elikus, what that's in of Yira. And how is it that in another case we say that the very essence of the seichel can be made into the midas until the midas become like seichel? So how can you have a midah and say that it's like seichel? I mean, they're two opposite in yonim altogether. How can you say that the midah became like seichel? Mainly in the case where we spoke about the hashpah derech habechin, it's not that the moichin become midas. I mean, they do go through what we call moichin, midas shebamoichin, what we call this pilot sichlias, and then from this pilot sichlias comes a bechain, and then the bechain you go down further into the midas. Of Sokosof, there's like another entity found in the midas which is pushing the growth of the midah, and that's the seichel. The seichel ultimately is mislavish in the midah and pushes it and develops it, and that's seen in the midah. And soon we're going to see that if that chayas of the moichin would draw, then it leaves a cavity. The midah doesn't have that chayas anymore. V'ilu, in the second case, we say, the seichel, this is meya into the midas, and the midas just lose their whole identity almost, and they go up and they become nichla or bottle in the Indian ha-moichin. So how does that happen? I mean, that's almost like a ishapcha. That's almost that the midas have become and bottle to the Indian of the seichel. And nichla in the Indian, so how do we call the midas b'klal? We just call it all, seichel. That's godless ha-midas. And it's totally in anything godless ha-moichin. So we need to understand just briefly what is the Hebdel Bein Zeh. Why do we call that Pnimis Ve'atzmis? That's called Chitanias. Even though Halavai for alle Yidden as a Chitanias, that there would be a Bechain and it would be Midas, and a mensch would have Ava V'yira, V'giloi Belev, like the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya and Perek Tesvav and Tezayin. That's the whole Shleimus of the Lom. Midas, what he calls over there, Vishkalas ha. That's a maskan Perek Yudzayin, that does it kill that color Adam the Gonze. Arich is Ha'inyan. So, the Inyan is that there's two Inyanim in Tzidus. Being as a Yud-based Tamuz, we have to understand the importance of and the Inyan of Tzidus Chabad. Everything which was given to us in the form of a Torah and a Gilui in Maimonic Chassidus is really Gilui Elikus. There's a Pnimius HaTorah, and Pnimius HaTorah is Gilui Elikus more than what it is in Nigla Torah, because in Nigla Torah it's hidden by the Levushim of the Matthias of the world, and what you're talking about, you're done in all sorts of Inyanim of Matthias and Gashmiim in the world, and how Torah decides in his Koveya the halachas and the dinim when they get to those in but that's also Elikus, come on. But it's hidden inside the Levushi HaOilam and the Levushi HaMatthias v'chulu. Either the Inif and Pnimis HaTorah now, apart from coming in and as Aminayvin, you've also had the mitzvah of making him be misbalbul from his limud. It's all the inyanim that are misgalit to a siddhas, they are Elokus in less hidden and less covered in Levushim Oifen than it is in Nigla the Torah. And therefore we see that the Zohar Kodesh, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, particularly at the end, the Zohar prior to Stalkus, he was Megala how the Inyan from Pnimis HaTorah is Mamish Gilui Elokus, Lamayla Milavushi Ha'olam V'chuli Kamuva, Mikola Inyanim, Sham. When you learn Ain and considers what you're really learning is Gilui Elokus, you're learning Ain and Eloki. So there's two ways that the Moyach can take that. If a person's got an Edel Moyach and a Moyach that he's worked at, and Mamela he's made his Moyach a Kli to Torah B'Klal and B'Frat to Pnimis HaTorah, what is Meir and his Moyach is the Oyer Eloki in that particular Inyan, even though it comes in the form of a Seichel and there's a certain understanding, but that understanding was only given Kedei the Mensch, being what he is and made the way the Eivishter made him, and he should be able to grasp it. He should be able to be, in some way or another, Mishyachas Ladovas there. But the Inyan is that he's botel to the Elokus. And remember, the Elokus is Meir, Meloshem Meir, which means that the Oyer, which is Elokus, lights up the Mensch, makes him tremendously, profoundly illuminated, not just that he understands something. No, he's lit up by the Inyan, because the Dover Amiti is Elokus, Meir in him, Meir, shining and illuminating. Therefore, that's how being as it is, Inyan Achmi, the Hainu, Elokus, it's able to go down through all the different processes, and nothing gets in it. Right. In its way, there's no what's called Meta Hagorin. You know what the Meta Hagorin is? The thin part of the throat and the whole. Arichas are brought down citizens in order for that Bechain to go through. I think we mentioned that in the last year, the whole idea of the symptom, in the Gorin, how does it go through the throat, Kavioch, and come out into the heart when it comes to Arichas. Inyan is that. It just sweeps everything before, because it's Gilei Elokus, it's a uniform Torah, how it's B'li Levushim and B'li Helam Be'ester. That's illumination, Eloki, godly light, and the fire is some Meir. And Meir, it doesn't matter, nothing's going to step in its way, it just goes down. And remember, the Midas, instead of becoming aroused, Lefi Mashaheim, in other words, that their Inyan is feeling the self, or they become bottle in the Oyer Eloki. And instead of being a Inyan for Yesh, Lamal Yusa, albeit, over there, Yesh, they become bottle completely in the Eloki. So you might say, well, we didn't need Midas for anymore, just forget about them, and you'll just have all the Elokis, Meir, Boy, and that's it, he'll be a divine man. We should have no open day for the Midas. Why do you need to say as Av of a year if it's all just bottle in the Seichel? It was for Av, it was for a year, it does. But we see that nonetheless everything's got its own contribution to make, as you might say. And the Midas, Okosov, the Midas there, Inyan is what we call feeling, regish. Regish can be Regish Eloki, it can be a divine thing also. And it's got its own particular brand that Seichel doesn't. Seichel doesn't have. Seichel is the Inyan from Hafshata, as we call it. So abstractity and going upwards and sort of being more into the realm of concept. Not so much feeling, but like we said, the Inyan from Chitonius Amoy have this Inyan from Midas Shabbat Seichel. Well, that's only Chitonius Seichel. It's not really the Amitis Inyan from Seichel. But wherever the Seichel is Meir, then it's Bittel, and it describes the Inyanim B'Diuk Kamosha. The Midas given to that a brand, and I tell you that the Mensch has a tremendously, and there was brought down in certain Drushei Chassidus that type of Midah is not a Shvacha Midah. It's not that you say, well, it's just been bottled in the Moichin and therefore it's bottled. It's bottled in the sense of not having a Matziyah. But I take you for Pnimi, what the Eivishter meant when he put Midas into a Mensch, that year comes through, that if he has but Elokus, he can't stand anything which would be in any way Menagit Elokus. Like somebody loves his son with the Ahava Atzmis, somebody even just looks at his son the wrong way. I couldn't see from him, and because The Ava is tremendously powerful, despite the fact that it's batel. It has no real materials over. It's powerful. And if I think the Rebbe brings down in the Devar Malchus in one of these weeks, based Tamuz taught, brings down to give in one of the big meetings that they had the Rabbanim. All the big Rabbanim came together, the Chav Chaim, the Reb Chaim Brisker, and all the other Reb Chaim Meiser, and the Rebbe Rashab and the Friedrich Rebbe came to that big meeting. It was in the Shnas Eter, I think it was. Well, that was when the Russian and the Polish, but there was also bottled between Russia in those days, that they wanted to be geyser, that Jewish children also had to be taught by a Zocha. Malamdi knew a little bit of, how do you call it, Chacham Shchiteni Seichet. They should know the language of the Medina, and they should be a little, bekannt in andere Sachen. And that a Rav, in order to be a Rav of a Kehillah, he has to know the Sprach. He has to be able to talk this, and he has to have a bit of a degree or something. And it was a big gezerah that they were planning to be geyser on the continue from Jewish education when they got to do it. And so some of the other Gedol Yisrael were choishes that in order to preserve the whole marechas of Yidden and the Jewish education, maybe you have to sit down a bit of Makabel sign, maybe try as much as possible to dray within it over. Maybe you have to sort of be more. What can we do? And the Rebbe Rashab was more the Keneged. He said, "B'shum moifn upon him. We mustn't be masking to it. This is the Chas v'Shalom will be hoyrus to hoin of Yiddishkeit. If a rov will, if he has to speak this Chas of Adina, or be master, he has to learn it, and he has to know certain on him in Chitanius, Chachmas Chitanius, das Achmanin und Zlan, das kann Mahara sein, der ganze Sinne von Yiddishkeit, befragt in der Chinuch von den Kindern. So it came to the Dion where the Rabbanim were done by Indian Ter, and some of the other great literature Gedolim said that maybe there was mocking, lahokil, to look for a way around it, and they came to the Rebbe Rashab, and he heard what they were saying, and the Rebbe Rashab was Gichalis, he mamshi fainted. That he Gichalis, mirave that he couldn't take it. And they had to, give him all sorts of medium to bring him back, They thought they're going to have to take him to hospital, and they're going to do it. Anyway, they managed to get him back to his singing, and he said that they shouldn't be nispor from that he's okay. And what he really wants to say is a b'shum oiven. He's not masking him with Tornish masking sign, and he said a few words with it. I mean, Bren and his structures. The people were just, they were mind boggled. So that's what I think it was around about that time that the Chav Chaim came out with the famous statement. He said that everything the Lubavitcher Rebbe says is pink as if Moshe Rabbeinu would stand up and say it. That's what the Chav Chaim is. And so some of the others, I can't label them. One of them said to the Chav Chaim, he said, "What? I don't agree. I'm queer of Minich, so I don't have to agree." Instead of the whole big thing. And the Reb Chaim Brisker, he also said that the Lubavitcher is a direct of 100%. We have to be makabel what he said. And that was a whole big thing, because the Briskers, they were very against Chassidus. After that, they say that he changed his opinion about the whole infant, that what people learn. Chassidus, a whole big mass. Anyway, what I mean to say is, whereas Tuiche for Av, Telekuz, he just couldn't take it. He couldn't take that there was something would be against the Heroes of Elkuz at Chalit. Now, mitzad seichel, you don't chalit. You don't chalish pure mitzad seichel. You can be the greatest seichel in the world. You chalish mitzad the ine from midas, the ine from regish. The regish is so powerful. Mitzad the immediate ine, where the midas are batel, they don't have any mitzvahs le'atzmei. Well, then they're very powerful. On the contrary, they're not shvach. They're very powerful. Where the midas go through this whole interview, the seichel goes through the whole Yerida, goes down the leadership of seichel, and then goes into the Bachain. Well, that's all chitzonius of seichel. By the time you get and you produce and you wake up the midas, believe from that type of Indian, from that type of Ashpur, then the Midas, they take on a certain natural tendency that they have to feel the self. Therefore you become a happy mensch, with certain feelings, but, you feel that the Abish is good for you, this is great, I have awe for the awe is a wondrous thing, it's tremendous, it's very amazingly fulfilling, it's worth all the effort, but the ganze Riech is Kamuvan, but that is, but the mensch feels a fulfilled person, Kilo, that Elokus is Tei Bishvil, Bishviloi. Vehilo and the other, even though we mentioned, he doesn't feel not himself, not anything. He feels only Elokus. Why? Because what was Meir in him was Meir Elo. Mashenkin in the second, well, in this case it's the first case, where it's a Chitzanius Aseichel. What is Meir is what they call in the Siddur Hasoga, grasp of the mind. And grasp of the mind is a very limited thing. You can only grasp in very limited ways in Yonei Elokus. Where it's all in from Chitzanius Aseichel, but Chitzanius Aseichel is what we call Hasoga, and where you've been massing certain in Yonei, then you can only feed to the midas a Chitzanius of that Gufa. Although where it's not the Ikir the Hasoga, no, the Ikir of the Moyach has become a Kli to the Oyer, Eloki, to the divine light. It's supposed to be there, it is there, in every Indian. So then, it's not really Seichel anymore. The Moyach has just become a Kli for Gilei Elokus, and it gives it over into the midas, and they also become bottle, and they just feed their natural Toikif into Bittul to Elokus Legam. And therefore the mensch becomes full of tremendous emotions, but emotions which are not for him, they're only for the Roxen of the Eibishter. And that's the difference. That's the difference between normal, in inverted commas, midas that come through the Chitzanius of the Seichel, and the sin that we saw, Gadlus HaMidas and Gadlus HaMoichin, or Pnimis HaMoichin, Pnimis HaMidas, two different phrases which are brought in considered. Or then the case of the Gadlus and the Pnimiyas, or that is a case where it is really Emesa Ilava Olo, because then the Mahus Inyan, which was in the Moyat, goes over into the Leiv. Of where the Ik is only Hasoga, and everything's built on the Inyan from grasping. And the Koyach Hasoga Shebaseichel, well then you can only deal in a Reif and Chitani, and therefore, Sokosov, you don't really produce the power of the moyach over into the leiv. You only a b'chein and a hora chitonius bilvad, and that leads to another entity to the seichel, which is not really brought to completely to the seichel. It becomes another entity, and that the seichel feeds into it a certain chayas. So that's the union of chitonius, a seichel chitonius ha leiv. That's what he says now. Avu b'chitanius ha'seichel chitanius ha'midas ma'asher me'ya min ha'seichel b'lei hu ha'ora levad v'lochein ma'asher nimtza mizeh hu midas v'lei moichin.
How can the moach do anything? But how can it be a kli and not be a saga? How can the moach do anything but hasaga? How can it be? What does it mean?
How can the moach do things without a soga?
What does it mean that the moach just becomes a kli?
Because the Indian from moach is not really meant to be a soga. The immediate Indian from the moach is not meant to be a soga. Therefore, if you look in Tanya all over, the Alter Rebbe says that Chochmah is koyach ma. The whole Indian from Chochmah is the ability of the mensch in koyach pnimim to be bottled to a message Eloki. Koyach ma. It's a koyach, but its whole Indian is ma. And a koyach hasoga is bina. The ability of a bina is already a kli which can be used also for pnimis of a chitanius. If you use it for chitanius, then you remain with the Indian of the hasoga. But if you teach bina also to be bottled and work at it hard, then it also becomes united with this whole Indian of being only a message to receive a uyer eloki. And then it's not the case that he doesn't understand. He's just like a sort of how would you call it? An expression of elokus. He does understand it, but it's not in the form of a soga, but it's in the form of a yichud his colors in the Indian, but that's the real reason we were given a moyach. The truth of the matter is, the real reason we were given a moyach is that should take you as a Matthias and make you koyach, which means Matthias, but make you ma. That's why we were given a moyach. And therefore we always say that Chochmah is in from oil, Chochmah is in from light. It's not in from seichel, but you can turn it into a seichel in Bina if you. That's the way you function. You can do it. But it's not the ultimate tachlis and the ultimate kavanah. And therefore it follows if he said, we said bashpoyas haseichel mi'arav el talmid. Over where it's just pure ashpoyah from a rav to a talmid in learning itself, in seichel itself. Ari nimtza bi'at talmid gamkein seichel. The rav gives over what he has into the talmid, and just like he has seichel, then he plants seichel over into the talmid. Lefisha nimsha b'zeh mahus haseichel le'ha'orele. The mahus haseichel, just like in the case of Pnimis Amidas and Gadlus HaSeichel and Gadlus Amidas also. There he took the Seichel and he put it into his own self, I know he's mid it. Over here when you teach somebody else, you take the in and how it is by you and you plant it over inside the mind and the Koiches HaSichlium of the Talmud, and there he's got a mahus. Something is gone into him exactly as it was by the Rav, and that's not a ha'ora. V'lochein, anu roim she'ashpoa nisha talmid etla talmid b'kiyumei gam li'achar shenifseko ashpoa. Therefore we see that that what a person got from his Rav, and that what he understood clearly, and he got it clear in his mind, well, that can stay with him forever. He always remembers that this is the gelernt, Rabbi Pliny of Pliny, this is the verstanden and gelernt, and that remains with him b'kiyumei exactly as it was. Gam li'achar shenifsek ashpoa, even if this Rav is not giving him any ashpoa at that particular moment. Ve'afilu li'achar siluch hamashpia, even if the mashpia went away and left him, even if he goes someplace else, or cholil v'chase, he's not around, or was siluch hamashpia. Even if that happens, that has no reference to the inyan that he was mekabel b'derech seichel from the mashpia. They always remain by him b'tachlis. Now we're going to see that that's a big difference between hashpoa and shefa and oil. The oil can only be with a moya. If there's a moya, then there's oil. But if the moya were to go away, then there's no oil. Over by shefa, it's not like that. That's one of the milas that there is in shefa. That when the mashpia gave over into the makabel a'inim b'derech shefa amiti, I know in the case of limud eze inim sickly, what he put into the talmud, and that remains with him forever. Kol yemei chayav, and it doesn't matter if the mashpia is still there. He doesn't have to keep planting him that seichel all the time. He gave it to him, and it becomes his. Why? Because it's inifan mahus. The mahus of the seichel was by the Rav. It's going over into the Talmud.
With the Rav giving the seichel to the Talmud, does the Rav lose the? Does the Rav lose the?
No, he doesn't.
How can it be that?
But he does. But he doesn't. We'll see about that as we go along. He does, but the Eibishter pays him back. In other words, he doesn't lose. Only he loses the tircha and the tircha that he had to get it into the other person. Or he doesn't lose through having given that seichel. No. Even though he does in a way, but not really. But he does lose time, and he loses being fanuman with that Talmud. At that time he can't be fanuman with somebody else or some other in. That's what we'll see as we go along here. Mikol makim nishar hashpoa etzel hamakabel v'yuchal lahamik bo, even if there's in siluch hamashpia, nonetheless the hashpoa is nisha by the makabel, and he can deepen himself into that, or lahasi pnimi usah v'yesh lo chayis b'zeh. In other words, no matter where the mashpia is or what's happened now between him and the mashpia, he's always got that seichel, and on the contrary, he can busy himself with it. Like the Gemara says in Masechet Avodah Zarah, the Gemara brings that achrei arboin shnin ko yemina shadaita Rabbi. After 40 years, then he begins to really realize what the Rav wanted and what was really the emes kavana in that particular seichel. Might take him 40 years, but that's a touch. He keeps busying himself because he's got it, and he's got it b'shleimusay. And this is he mitadis kelim may not always relate to the full pneumias. It may take time within him. Until he'll really get the full pneumias, but he can get the full pneumias because it's really there. Everything is there. He's just got to make himself worthy to get it. And the Pharaoh said, then he can have a lot of new chayas in that understanding. I know, but the very essence of that haros aseichel. The very essence of the seichel of the Rav is nimshach into the moyach of the Talmud. V'lochein nishal li'olam gam le'achar siluch hamashpia. The bekol mokim sham shoche hi ha'ora levad hari kasher mistalik ha'etzem mispateles ha'ora kiyadua. We're going to see later on when we come to the concept of where a thing is only a ha'ora, not the very essence of the thing, then it must always have the ma'or, as it were, to be, because a ha'ora is totally in a source of light, in a ma'or. And therefore something which is only a ha'ora, if it came from the mashpia derech ha'ora bilvad, not his etzem mahus seichel, then you need the mashpia the whole time. And if he was to be mistalik, then misbatel the ha'ora. But when you were koilet, you grasped, and he gave you the very mahus of what he wanted to give you, then you don't need the ma'or, because it's no longer ma'or mit'or. It's etzem, it's mamish mahus. But where it's only a ha'ora, then he's like, as it were, a form of a source of light. As if he withdraws, and the misbatel also the ha'ora. And therefore we're going to see that in the infant arousing midas, but there are chitzonius aseichel, if that chitzonius aseichel withdraws from the midah, then the midah can lose through that, because of it was only a ha'ora, as it needs always, as it were, a refueling from the moyach of the autumn to continually keep pressing that ha'ora should be going into the midas. Or if for some reason he takes his mind away from that inyan altogether, then the midas can lose from that. They can lose as if the whole thing, the ha'ora becomes bottle etzlam. And therefore all they can feel is what you might call their innate factor. Like we said earlier, our midas below is there in the mensch. He can feel what you might call the innate bren of a midah, but he doesn't feel the delicacy and the elevation that he gained through the entry of the seichel into that midah. And that's what he says now. Zeu she'onu roim b'ashpoas hamidas me'aseichel. Inei ma shenimtzo me'aseichel b'midah hu achayis b'amidah alidei hergish b'chein. It's the highest in the midah through the fact that the midah feels the b'chein. Now that's an important statement we have to pay attention to in another shiur tomorrow with more detail. The midas feel the b'chein because they don't really understand midas. Their aim is not to understand, and the b'chein is really like a message from the moichin, so they feel that more than they really understand it. And that's because the moichin have gone down so far, but they're tzimtzum to approach them. He said, "Harei kishanifsach v'nisale maseichel mizbatel hachayis shebamidah." If that haros ha'b'chein in the midas happens to withdraw, or it becomes like lost for him temporarily or something, that because he stopped continually feeding that from the understanding that he had, then he tends to lose the bren that he had in the midah. Now he may not lose the midah completely, in a way of ayin yesh mi, or maybe yesh la'ayin. He might just lose it completely, but he will lose that chayas and that enthusiasm and that bren that he had in the midah, because the ikar giver of the chayas, which is the seichel, has withdrawn. But since that was only a ha'ora from seichel, it wasn't the immediate mahus of a seichel, then it's like a oil from Moya, as if for some reason the Moya goes away, then the Ha'ora can also be mispatil, and then he can lose the Chayas. And therefore, it's one on B'dache Aveda that if you woke up through the union of Seichel, a certain midah, you have to keep feeding at it from time. We're coming now.
Can I get the tablecloths and the plates to set up? Can I get the tablecloths and the plates to set up there?
Are you only setting up now? I thought you were already finished.
Or I just need the tablecloths in that box there.
All right, we're finishing now.
Okay.
Just 1 second. The fire. It follows that if he doesn't continually feed into the midah a certain ha'ora of that seichel, then the midah will tend to become how do you call it, ovishvacht, they say in Yiddish. It'll become like, sort of weakened and losing its ikka to ikka, and that's what we call chayas. It'll lack the whole chayas in the midah, but it may not completely how do you call it, disintegrate, because the midas, as we said before, really exist anyway in the nefesh, and they were awakened, so they never completely lose awakening, but they lose a lot of the chayas that they have. Good. However, it's, in Yud Beis Tamuz we don't lose any chayas, but we only gain a tremendous amount, because that's hashpoas ha'etzem, not even hashpoas ha'ora atzmius.
Question. Before in the Maimer we said that when a person does his blindness on his bechain, he gets a great emotional arousal. So seemingly, we're told to do his blindness, and I've spoken to for myself. I'm not such a person that I can have.
Tell me, come and get the
a tremendous understanding of the concept of do his blindness.
Go tell him.
I think that most people, including myself, that we only have a simple understanding of the man, and we is blind on it, and then we get aroused on it. So then, what's the point of doing it if it's going to go away after?
Well, see, that's what we said. That's only because as it were, the mo'er is mastalek from the ha'ora. You remember, the ha'ora becomes part. That's why I said you got to keep feeding the ha'ora. You got to keep renewing and reminding yourself of the isboninus. And it's brought down in certain places and cities. But once you've done it very systematically, then it's enough to feed that ha'ora back into what may be a slightly fading midah. It's enough to do that relatively bekitza. You don't necessarily need the whole arena, because you've already broken through, and you've already made it, and you've already achieved it. Then it's enough to deal with the bekitza. You understand? For example, it's brought down at Big Evening they used to daven on Shabbos, buddy. It was like their day when they used to daven. So it's brought down that they used to achieve a lot. He said in the middle of the week they may not have had so much time for whatever reasons, but since they've been through it all so systematically and exhaustively on Shabbos, therefore in the middle of the week they didn't need the whole big amount of time. It was enough fairly bekit. Or we have to keep feeding the ha'ora into the middle. That's the whole point. Good. Okay, guys.